This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about The Honeymoon Killers from 1970, directed by Leonard Kastle, and Spine 200, RJ, in the Criterion Collection. The tagline for this film, "Love is a bitch called Martha."
Is that really what it is?
Martha Beck, an obese nurse who is desperately lonely, joins a quote-unquote correspondence club, but finds a romantic pen pal in Ray Fernandez. Martha falls hard for Ray and is intent on sticking with him, even when she discovers he's a con man who seduces lonely single women, kills them, and then takes their money. She poses as Ray's sister and joins Ray on a wild killing spree, fueled by her lingering concern that Ray will leave her for one of his marks.
He's not killing them before, is he?
Well, so this is where we'll talk about the true crime part and the.
Okay.
So, getting it out of the way, I guess right out of the way. So this is based on two true life serial killers that were dubbed the Lonely Hearts Killers, Raymond Fernandez and Martha Beck. Mm-hmm. And so from what I was reading, what I gathered, the film kind of covers the murders that they were able to prosecute. And so they were going off the actual evidence, because this was like 1940, I think, is when the original pair was running around. They were executed in 51. This film is kind of like set in like late 60s America. Mm-hmm. So they killed probably more people. They weren't for completely sure, but these are the ones that they showed. Those are the ones that they were more definite on, at least on the one case, and piecing things together. So maybe they were being a little bit restrained in what's basically an exploitation movie. They didn't want to go too far, but they show those murders. So anyway, so RJ, I've seen this movie before. I own this on DVD. I bought this years ago, sold on the really cool DVD cover. And the write-up sounded like something right up my alley in terms of sleaze. And it was all those things. It's been a very long time since I watched this, probably around the time it came out. So that's like 2003, 2004. And so this was a long overdue revisit. And just want to get this out of the way, because this is on the Criterion channel. So the absolute worst thing about this film is a production element that I've always found really hard to get past. It's the audio. The audio for like the first part of this movie is really bad. It is very noisy. You can hear just like room noise and the sound of the machines, and characters sometimes especially when they start raising their voices, it's kind of like, and she's like, what? It's like, no one can hear it. Anything that they said, like they didn't re-record it. They just went with it. As the film goes on, it does get better, but especially earlier on in some scenes in the house, in the hospital and stuff, it's pretty tough to actually figure out what they're saying without really paying attention.
Did you not have subtitles on?
I didn't think I needed them. I just was more noting the tone of the subtitles, or the tone of the sound of their voices, and then it does disappear. But that's on the DVD too. And I thought maybe by the time that the Criterion Channel put their, because I think this is a restoration now since the DVD I have, so maybe they found some better audio quality. But I think that's just what it was recorded with, and you just have to deal with it, sadly. Yep. So all those things being said, I enjoy this movie, RJ. This movie it checks a lot of boxes for me. True crime, black and white, sleazy. I think that Shirley Stoller, the lead of this, Martha, I think she has like a real screen presence to her.
Oh yeah,
yeah, she's pretty great in this. I have to imagine that Divine of the John Waters camp of the movies that you've never seen. I drew a lot of inspiration from her, because there's a lot of visual kind of similarities and campness. And like there's like the one scene, like one of the first things that's like always stuck out to me, and when I saw it again in the movie, I went, oh yeah. When she's like, it's a shot of her feet walking down the street, and she comes across this little red kid's wagon, and she just boots it out of the way. That's like so perfect, and just like speaks to her like anger with the world and frustration, and her like not caring about people, and just I don't know. It's a good thing, and like you've seen that thing get played up by like always like misanthropes and mean old men, but it was really awesome seeing this like nurse walking home, and she's like she's supposed to be the compassionate one. She's the nurse, and she's like all these things that it goes against those stereotypes. But she's lonely, and so in this world before there was Tinder and Grindr and Plenty of Fish and going back further before online dating.
Okay,
it was the old-fashioned way.
Uh-huh.
You sent letters, and there was things like correspondence clubs, lonely hearts clubs, and the idea is that for people who just aren't out there mingling, meeting new people, they write to this thing. Their name gets sent to a PO. Maybe there's a number somewhere, a face, and in this particular circumstance, we have Ray Fernandez, played by Tony LoBianco, and he's got a gimmick. He's got an angle he figured. He's going to single out these ladies, romance them, be a real Lothario, and fleece some of their money and get out of there. It's a victimless crime. He's giving them his love, and they give him his money, and then he's out the door. Is it? It's in 1940s. I mean, had anyone ever thought of this sweet scam?
Yeah, I mean, I don't find issues in like a scam. A scam's pretty sound, but like, maybe it's the way they portray everything. I guess I don't know. Continue with what you're talking about before I incriminate myself anymore.
Right. So, the Martha in this movie, she's getting swindled, but then she figures things out. And there's some threats of blackmail and killing herself that kind of keeps him in. And then she's kind of able to persuade him that, hey, I'm on the level. I'm into this. Like, I'm in a sick way. And he's kind of like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Maybe we can be sickos together. And it's a new thing. So they're banging. There's some very frank sexuality here, RJ. How'd that make you feel? That like just standing in front of her while the sleeping pill drugged out mother is passed out nearby?
I mean, I was okay with most of it. There were a few that I was kind of like
when he's walking down the stairs very slowly.
Yeah. Oh, she won't mind.
And then just walking as his pelvis gets closer to the camera lens.
I mean, some might say that that's the new romance, though. Like, who are we to judge how people find each other and stay together
and carry on? Yeah.
Carry on.
So the movie's got like these kind of these moments of their behavior. It's like, oh, I got mom to get rid of. She's gone crazy. Put her in the old folks home. It's like, oh, she's lost her mind. It's just like, oh, that's pretty harsh. And then they start hitting the road and finding those ladies where they're playing brother and sister, which is, maybe more typical in a different era. I don't know how hands-on this. I don't know how far this particular scam would go these days.
In general, or
this brother-sister angle.
Yeah, it's not totally believable because he has an accent.
Yeah, he's clearly he's like Spanish, I guess, like the actual man, and Tony LoBianco is Italian.
Yeah, 100%. It's not like,
and
you can tell they're not brother and sister, but I mean, it's like, hey, I'm just so in love with this guy, I can't see past it, or I can see past it.
They could be half siblings.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what is?
Yeah.
What is anything?
Right. What is anything?
What is anything? Yeah. So sure.
So we get various angles. We see how these two interact, and the fact that they also are kind of getting off on the fact that they're getting away with this stuff, and kind of pushing those boundaries of how far they can get away with it. But Martha is a controlling woman, and she always she gets jealous of these this process, which also winds up causing stress with this new woman that always is coming to the picture and making it more difficult to part them with their money. But then over time, things start escalating more and more, and then they find the main, I guess, the first victim of the story. This woman who's like very sweet, very well off. And then you start seeing her dark side, which is like really great. Like when they're ordering food from this like cafeteria. Oh, don't worry, I'll pay for everything. Oh, how much is that? Oh man, that's very expensive. You don't skimp on the gravy. And it's like, oh, what would you like, dear? She'll order that. She eats too much. Like, I love how like she turns on this thing. We're like, I don't know if they're trying to say, well, maybe it's okay if they kill her, but
That's what I meant to say earlier when I was like, I don't know if it's the presentation of like the victims, because like it seems like that's almost what they go for with this nice old lady. It's like they're like, this lady was a total bitch. She was like calling people fat. She was like, we got to go to church. Unbelievable. But then at the end, I think when you're shown the mother and daughter, you're like, oh no, these are nice people. Now you feel bad for them. Not as much as the older lady, but
well, even the older lady though,
there.
Like the staging of the murder,
it's not great.
It's pretty grim stuff. It's really well done, and it kind of like as you're watching the movie, it's a very watchable movie, and then you get to that scene, and it's like it really turns, and it's like whoa, like he goes and gets the hammer, and then he sets it down, and he sits on the couch, and then she comes in. She wants the checks back, Ray. And it's like, who's Ray? Oh, well, I'm just going to go for a walk. I'm just going to take the jewelry, put it in my bags, and don't worry, there's nothing weird. It's like, oh man, this is getting real dark. It's like, you got to do it. And they cave her head in with a hammer, and you get to see her choked to death. And it's and then
what happens?
Dispose of the body, cleaning up afterwards, putting the body in the old tinkle trunk.
The tinkle truck or the tickle truck?
Tickle.
I mean, either way,
tickle?
It's pretty disturbing what you just said.
Ta words. So anyway, they got to get rid of that body, and
sure they do.
They sure do. Oh, and before that, there was there's like the one lady who's knocked up, the southern lass who gets overdosed.
Oh, and then sent back on the bus.
Yeah,
that one I did feel bad for her too. I mean, even though Martha calls her the hottest bitch she's ever seen, she says, "You are the hottest bitch I've ever seen," and it's like, I feel one of the other things, I realized it was a different time, but also it was like, you sleep with some of them, like the old lady, he married her, right? But then he was like, you still sleep in the same room with my sister, because they were married, weren't they? Or not yet?
Well.
Because for a second I thought like for that one I was like, I think they're married already, so it's like, why are they still sleeping in separate rooms? So anyways, the Southern Belle, I felt bad for her. I was like, yeah, she wants to get down, she wants to get freaky. Because Martha's like, how would you know? She's like, bitch, I'm pregnant. And she's like, I know what to do down there. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm misreading certain things, but what were you gonna say about this Southern Belle?
Oh, that was a nice bit of grimness, business.
That they're like dosing pregnant women.
Just got to keep them quiet. Quit asking questions. Go to sleep. Do you want a sleeping pill, RJ?
A sleeping pill? You know, Andrea's parents used to give her NyQuil when she was a little worked up. They'd be like, hey, you look sick, maybe. Come over here and
drink
have
up.
A little NyQuil. Lovely people, don't get me wrong, but I've heard some stories of NyQuiling.
Wow.
I'm sure a lot of parents have been in similar situations where they're probably like, go to bed.
They've had some strategies.
Yeah, I mean, if Warlock's ever on your case, you could just give him a bunch of ham or something. Maybe he would eat it, get tired, and call it a day.
Call her a day.
That's almost the same.
Maybe. So, and then we get the kind of the last big kill. The one that's supposed to, because it's like that 10,000 was supposed to last him, but oh no, we got a good thing going. Here's another woman. She's got a kid. It's going to be great. And she was like, he was a good man, and I'm presenting like a good man. But she gets asked too many questions. And then, of course, the big one is, oh, I'm pregnant with his child. And Martha's like, nuh-uh. That's not what she wants to hear. So,
what did you think was better, when she was strangling the pregnant woman or when she slapped the little girl?
Ooh. Let And she slapped the little girl. It's pretty good. But yeah, that scene where it's like all close up on her face, and her eyes are just going back and forth as they're talking about what they're going to do with her. It's some pretty great filmmaking right there. It's pretty good.
Probably would have been good for an Instagram post for a hit podcast or something.
And then they have to start talking about what they're going to do with that little girl, and she's in the closet, and it's like, oh boy. But I really do like the conclusion to this, how Martha winds it down. Like she goes and makes that phone call, and the framing of that, and then when she comes down the stairs as Ray is disposing of the body in the basement, and it's like there's someone at the door, and it's like, just go down there, I'll handle things.
Well, I like that, and then I actually think the resolution is pretty fitting too, because he goes away and then she still loves him, and then it goes to a point where like she loved him most writing those letters, and now they have it back again. Yeah, writing those letters, and then I was like, oh, that's what she really wanted. Yep. That's how I read it.
And he can't see any other women.
He can't see any other women, so it's like
she belongs to him.
Just like you belong to me, man.
Yeah. So hey, did you know that old Martin Scorsese himself was directing this movie at the beginning?
I heard some grumblings of the sort, but I didn't know what that meant.
Well, apparently he was tapped to direct this after he made Who's That Knocking at My Door? Or at the door. And he was working too slow. He was taking his time making this movie, making scenes on trains take way too long, and the producers were like, they fired him. This guy was going to cost us money.
Wow. Yeah. And then how much do you think he got done?
I couldn't. I mean, I'm sure if you went through it, you could probably piece together certain moments. And there's actually one where they're driving down a road, and there's kind of like a zoom in on the, like, whatever it was, somewhere in New York, Queens or Long Island, whatever sign it was, like Hoboken. And that's a very Scorsese vibe to it. That's something that he would do, I think. But yeah, that's the one that jumped out at me, because I kind of half forgot about that when I was watching this, and then afterwards I went, oh yeah, someone mentioned that on some other podcast recently too, and I was like, hey, we're going to be talking about that later. I should mention that too, so I'm in the know.
Are you in the know though?
No.
I mean, would you consider this actual cinema, or is this just a roller coaster ride?
Whew, man, does it make you think and feel? Does it take you to a place? Do you know where it's going to end by the end? Or or is it like, because those movies are so predetermined. Is this predetermined because it is based on a true crime? You know that they got their just desserts?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, Jarrett, but art isn't real. So
I see.
Mostly none of it matters. But I'm glad that you gave me some input on that. I did see that, but I was like, Jared will talk about it.
The other factoid somewhere is that Francois Truffaut thought this was a great American film.
Yeah, but what did he know?
True. Hey, RJ.
Yes.
What did you think of The Honeymoon Killers?
The Honeymoon Killers. First time, long time for me. I think I've heard the title of this movie more than I've actually knew anything about it in any capacity at all. I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I've heard The Honeymoon Killers being mentioned a lot. So when you were talking about it, you're like, oh yeah, it's Honeymoon Killers. I was like, I've heard that title before. That sounds like a movie that people talk about for some reason, whatever. So I went into it pretty fresh pair of eyes. I was like, I don't know anything about this. And then it starts off with that little bumper. It's like, this is a true story. And I was like, oh shit. I wonder if it is, or if they just made it up. Yeah. Blair Witch style. 100% accurate. I was like, I don't know, maybe. Who knows? So you're watching this and you're seeing this old Martha lady, and you're like, oh dang, what's her deal? And then when you were reading the synopsis about an obese woman, I was like, I don't know if that's totally fair. I mean, she's bigger. She just looks like a big woman. I don't know if she's obese, but maybe that's just my opinion. Anyways, you see her and you see a little bit about her, Jarrett, and you're like, oh, I see what her deal is. She's not acting out, but she's getting back at some other people. And you're like, okay. And then her mom is there, and you're like, oh, okay. And then enter Ricardo Montalban. a handsome man enters of Tony Bianco,
Khan himself.
the Khan himself, and I was like, okay, let's see where this goes. And then you see it play out, and I was like, all right, I'm pretty sure I know what he's doing. Well, let's see. And then you get a little bit more. It's like, oh yes, he says, I am that guy, but will you be that woman? And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, so they're partnering up here. They're
It's a team up.
Iron Man and Black Panther style, like Martin Scorsese likes.
So, yeah, one thing too is like, so Martha Beck in real life, she had 2 kids as well, but they kind of skimmed over that to kind of make it more like she was like this, like loveless woman. It's just things aren't working out for her, which was like true, but like, yeah, she did have 2 children, and he had a family in Spain that he abandoned.
I think if they had left that in, it would have been even better for this movie. It would have just made it that much sadder. Like, did she cart these kids along to all of these things with her?
I think she dumped them just like her mom. So they did the mom scene instead.
Yeah, so that maybe was a little too real at the time, but if they had showed what actually happened and just her leaving some kids at like a Burger King or something, well, I guess
the equivalent,
whatever the 1940s version of Burger King was, and being like, I'll be back in an hour, got a job interview, and then just leaving, it'd be like, that'd be pretty fucking sad. That'd be a little out there. I never even mentioned. I just got into it. I like this movie. I thought it was good. I do like Martha Beck. It's kind of like what you said. This lady, Shirley Stoller, of I don't know if you know this, but she's in one of our favorite movies, Frankenhooker, as something, I guess.
Yeah.
She does have like a real presence, because when she's on screen, she's grabbing attention, you know. Mm-hmm. So you're like, this she's fun to watch because she's got some kind of charm to her where you're just like, I wonder what she's gonna do next. I can't take my eyes off her, Jer. I just can't do it. And then I think it really works in scenes where
her freckly face that her freckly face that you don't even notice, because like in black and white, but then they do this close up, you're like, oh, look at that.
You're like, she's full of freckles. I think the one time, or the few times it really shows, like with her, like say her freckly appearance or her presence, is kind of how you mentioned, where she'll like when she gets loose, it like cuts the scheme loose, and she'll be like, Ray, she knows all about it. Like, it happens a couple times, and they're like, who's Ray? And she's like, Ray, you got to end this bitch right now. And you're just like, oh shit, Martha.
And there's like the one woman, like the first like Mark, I guess, that she's along with, where she's like going through her stuff and just taking it all, and she figures it out, and she goes downstairs like, I want my things back. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And like, she's playing that, like she just changes on a dime, where it's like, oh man, like, yeah, she's totally in her element. Like she's enjoying this power. Mm-hmm.
Well, who wouldn't?
No. He's like, Ray, you're not saying anything. Why are you not talking? He's just letting her do her thing.
Mm-hmm. So I think they do. They build it up good, like kind of like we said. There's a nice progression where you have the one that doesn't work out the way it's supposed to, and then you have the one that pretty much works, and then you have the one where it's like, let's kill this bitch. And then I actually really. That's a direct quote.
Yeah.
I really like the way it plays out afterwards, where they're kind of like in shock a little bit, and they're like walking around naked. The lighting in that scene is awesome because it's dark, but there's just like the light from the one room coming in, and it's just like Ray's naked body like filling up the light, or it's Martha walking through the light.
Yep.
And I really liked how that was like kind of framed up. I was like, that looks nice. It's a good looking scene. So
Leonard Kastle, he came to this as a composer, and he wound up directing this, and this is his only film. Yeah. And so, I mean, pretty good.
Well, that seems very nice.
No.
Yeah, and it's all pretty good. And like the one thing too that I think people would could very easily criticize is the acting in this, but I don't care. Like some of these people, it's like they're John Lovitz acting in these scenes, but whatever. Who gives a shit, right? Like I for the most part, I was like, I don't know, it's fine. Let's just go along for the ride for a little bit here. Just go along for the ride, Jared. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that one scene I think is it looks great. I think Ray is an interesting character because he's equal parts like bad man, equal parts like you kind of want to be like, oh, you scamp, you little scamp, Ray, because he's always like, but baby, what do you want me to do? He's like, what am I supposed to leave? And it's like, oh, Ray, you little whatever. Do you know what I mean, Jer? Is that weird to say? Probably not. So I mean, it's cool that it's true crime story. It's interesting to see. I think it would have been better if they left in those other points, but just watching the whole thing, I was all on board for the ride. I was just like, yeah, let's see how this plays out. So, I mean, I think that's a pretty big compliment.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it. That sounds kind of condescending, but I'm being serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I watched it. I was like, yeah, that's good. It's good stuff.
Good stuff.
Little honeymoon killers.
It kind of reminds me of Sisters in the the tone of it, but I think that this actually is better in some ways.
Interesting.
Like it grabs me. Like it's a movie I'm like, yeah, like there's like the stuff in it where like I'm very excited about. With Sisters, there's like those moments, but there's like it's such a strangely goofy movie that it takes a long time to get to the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the thing with that, Jer, is
and this movie's like almost like what, an hour 50 minutes, pretty close, and I think it goes by really well.
Yeah, it doesn't drag or anything like that. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. I got some nice screen caps that I look forward to using sometime in the immediate future. Yeah.
Some anti-Semitism.
That one was pretty good. I mostly liked the hot bitch ones and the just when they're kind of pumping each other up a little bit. It's like he's like, "What would you do for me? Would you do this?" He's like, "Oh yeah." And like, I mean, that sounds gross when I say it, but in the context that I'm going to use it for, it'll be wholesome and lighthearted. So, interesting show, my friend Jer. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Want to hear about who hates the Honeymoon Killers?
I guess.
Alan H.
Okay.
With a little blue whale blowing some water out of the top of his head.
How did he get that on his letterbox?
I copy and pasted it.
Oh, wow. Shit.
1.5 star. I think this movie worked better under its original title, A Bunch of Ugly People Yelling at Each Other.
A bunch of ugly people?
Yeah.
That seems pretty unfair, Jer. Pretty unfair. So this Alan H. individual, their bio just says bullshit. That's it. Mm-hmm. They have lots of ratings. Do you want to hear about 5 stars or half stars?
You guide the way here.
5-star review for Rambo, where they go to Burma, even though he tells them not to go to Burma, Jarrett. Mm-hmm. This person just gave 5 stars to Thunder Road, also that movie that you watched and thought was okay.
Yeah.
5 stars to Mandy, First Reformed. I mean, a lot of these things they're not bad, actually. There's a few things I can poke fun of, but let's go to the half-star reviews here. A Children of the Corn remake, Speed 2, Hellraiser Judgment. Ooh, Nocturnal Animals, half a star.
Oh,
interesting. Our fan base will love that.
It's not that at all. It's okay.
Yeah.
Jacob Phillips, 2 stars.
Okay.
Very amateur and not in a charming way. The dialogue is all terrible, and the performances aren't doing much to sell it. Maybe my ignorance is showing, but I don't see what's so great about the lighting. Like, what makes this any better than Shadows? The John Cassavetes movie, I guess. Could have been cool, okay. Just wasn't.
Could have been cool, just wasn't. You know what could have been cool but wasn't? Funny Games, that this person gave 5 stars to.
It's divisive.
The remake Funny Games. Sorry.
Okay. It's the same thing.
Same exact movie, right? Yeah. It's all 5 stars are all Criterions and then things like Miyazaki films. So nothing out of bounds there. But half star to A Beautiful Mind? Is that a bad movie? It's been a long time since I've seen it.
It's been a while since I've seen it too.
Half star to Black Panther. Half star to Ants with a Z. That can't be right. That's a good show. You know that Woody Allen classic Ants, Jarrett?
Yeah, I know
That's
that.
not a half-star film, is it?
Lance Grab Miller, 2 stars.
Mm-mm.
This is a weird one. Feels like a hangover from 50s Z-grade thriller with a couple drops of early Cassavetes and a couple drops of early John Waters. As great as that sounds, it doesn't quite live up to that description. The death scene of the old lady at a little over an hour and is a bit raw and hard to watch, which kind of makes it the best scene in the whole movie.
Sure. Maybe it does.
Yeah, just some.
Is that their whole review?
That's their whole review.
It looks like it's either... Oh, it's a fresh account, this person. I was going to say abandoned, but it looks like they just started. No, wait, that can't be true. They have stuff from last November, and they have stuff from this November, but they only... What the fuck is going on? They don't rate stuff anymore. Okay. 5 stars to Stalker, half a star to Forbidden World. That's not fair. All these people have 8.5 as one of their favorite films, though. All these people who hate this movie.
Really?
Yeah. Well, not all. This person and the last person. So 2 out of 3.
Interesting.
Strangely enough. That's, I mean, if you want to hear that this person gave Get Smart, the Steve Carell film, 1 star, I'll tell you about it.
That's right.
But, I mean, whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, Honeymoon Killers, I think, is a success.
I liked it.
What a great pick for 200. I'm pretty sure I've read some people say that people were mad because they had high expectations for the 200th, and it's like Honeymoon Killers, but it's like this is like a great example of what the Criterion Collection should be able to do, is kind of unearth these kind of obscurities that more people should be watching.
Are people ever not going to be mad when
never
you make it could have been 201 and they'd be like fucking Honeymoon Killers. It could have been 214 and they'd be like Honeymoon Killers.
I'm sure people were happy that Devil's Backbone was spine 666.
I would have preferred Fishing with John be spine 666.
But then we wouldn't have watched. You wouldn't have discovered you liked it yet.
But also spine 30 or whatever it was.
Yeah,
it can be in there twice. When's that sequel coming?
Any last words, RJ?
Nah, I liked it.
Good.
Pretty fair.
Pretty fair. After the break, we're gonna pop some sleeping pills, sit back on the bed, eat some chocolate sweets, wait for Ray.
Ray. From Ghostbusters?
That's right. Old
okay.
Dan Aykroyd.